Okay, so it's section 6.4, sending data into a function. So two terms that we have to remember. When we pass a value to a function, we're going to be calling it an argument. When we receive a value in a function, we're going to call it parameter. What will be the call? If I'm going to be sending something, that means I need to call it, right? So let's suppose that the function that we have, it's a void, and we're going to call it function A. I'm just going to put FA. Okay, so if I'm going to be calling function A, this is main right here. So in main, which is the place, the module that I'm going to be making a call, I have to call it, so I use the name, I use F, A, and then if I need to send a number 5, then I'm going to be using parentheses. I'm going to put the number 5 in the parentheses, close the parentheses, close my line, my statement is with my semicolon. So I have a name right here, and this is what we're going to call the argument. Now, when this transfer controls, because this transfer controls to the function itself, FA needs to receive the 5 somewhere. And somewhere we know that it's always a memory location. So it needs a variable name. And the variable name needs a data type. So let's suppose 5 is an int. So I'm going to put int. And we can have here the variable x. Close it. This one doesn't have the semicolon because after the header we have the program description right here, all the lines, right, in that function. So right here, this 5, because it's being sent, we call this the argument. This x right here, that is going to be the memory location, this is going to be in main memory as a variable, is going to receive the 5, and we call it the parameter. So these are the two names. We have an argument and we have the parameter. The sending value is going to be called the argument. The receiving variable is going to be called the parameter. There are some other names that you can encounter in other books, like actual argument, actual parameter, formal argument, formal parameter. What we're going to be using in this textbook and this semester is going to be argument and parameter. So we're going to make a big distinction between these two names. One is the argument and the other one is the parameter. The value, as you can see, is the same. It's a 5 and it's a 5, right? But we just have a different name for it. Okay, when we are using prototypes, we have to list the data type for the parameters that are going to be used in our function. Like following the same example, FA, and we have an int x in the function. So my prototype is going to be void function A, the name, FA, and then I open the parenthesis and I put an int. I don't need to give it the name of the variable, not necessary. I just need to give the data type of that parameter that is going to be received. Why is this? if I'm the programmer that is going to be creating main, and I have another programmer that is going to be creating FA, function A, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell that programmer the name of the function and the type of the parameters or the values that is going to be used by the function. So I have to specify that it's an INT. The naming of the variables is going to be up to the programmer. That programmer is going to decide what names to use. I just worry about letting that programmer know the data types. So that's why the prototype doesn't need a name, okay, in the parameters. Sometimes you will see some programs that they do use names, but it's not necessary, and it gives more freedom to the programmer. Then the heading in the declaration of the function itself, it needs the whole thing. So I'm going to have void my FA, and then in parentheses I'm going to have my INT, and then the name of the variable. In this case we're using the letter X, right? That is the name. And then in my call, just what I gave you, we're just going to be calling FA, and then in parentheses the number 5, semicolon. Here in this example that they are giving us, they are using a variable right here, and that is fine. I'm using a constant. That is also correct. Some notes that we need to keep in mind. The value of an argument is copied into the parameter when the function is called. Okay, so the value is the one that is going to be copied. So if in my call I have FA and I'm sending the 5, and I have my void, this is my function itself, FA, and then I have an INTX, this 5 is the value, is going to be copied into X. So now FA that already reserved an area in main memory is going to have a variable that is called X, and it has a 5. Let's suppose that I call it again. I have another call, FA, and I'm going to be sending num. Num is a variable, right? Let's suppose that num has the value of 20. What are we going to copy it into X? A 20. So now X has a number 20. So whatever I have in num is going to be copied into X. Do I lose the value that I had in num? No. It's only a copy. If I change X here, let's suppose that I add 10 to X. Now I have a 30 right here. Is that going to change num? No. Num stays as it is. This is a copy. When I make a copy, the original changes if I make changes to the copy? No. Never, right? Let's suppose that I change this name and I put here an X. And I have in X, I have a 3. Okay, starting my program right here in main, right here, x has a value of 3. What am I going to copy into this x? A 3. So I have in x, I have a 3. Then let's suppose that I add 10 to this x. So now instead of a 3, I have a 13. Did this x change? No. The original never changes. And I'm going to explain why. Main, when I start main, I have curly braces, right? That start and end main. Yes, everybody? After the int main open and close parentheses. Okay, the curly braces, they block. They indicate this is a block. And just like we can see it in our program, that's the way that it happens in main memory. So main is going to be reserving an area in main memory, and then this void fa function also has curly braces, right? So these curly braces, they indicate a different block from main. So they have this other area in main memory. So that's why I can have a variable called x here in main memory and a variable called x in FA. But there are two different x's, two different memory locations. That is why when we're calling, we're making a copy. Whatever I have here, it was a 3, right? So we made a copy and we put it here in this x. So now in here, I have a 3. I changed the 3 to a 13. So now I have a 13 in x, and this one remains as a 3. This one changed, but this one didn't, right here. Questions? Function can have one parameter or more than one parameter, okay, but it can also have none, okay. So, and when we have none, and here it is, it's going to be open and close parentheses. There must be a data type listed in the prototype and an argument declaration in the function heading for each parameter. That's what I explained. Arguments will be promoted or demoted as necessary to match parameters. If I'm going to be sending from FA, let's suppose that I have a 5, comma, and then I have a 3. I have two arguments right here, a 5 and a 3. So I need two parameters here. I only have one. The 5 is going to go into x, and when the 3 is trying to be copied in somewhere, it doesn't have, so it's going to be lost in space, and this is going to give us an error. So I need another recipient for my 3. I need another variable for my 3. When calling functions with multiple arguments, which is what we're talking about right now, the number of arguments in the call must match the function prototype and definition. The first argument will be copied into the first parameter, the second argument into the second parameter, and so on. Here's another illustration, another example. This is the call. So this is in main right here, or in another function. I'm just using main for simplicity because we're very familiar with main. And we're calling display data, and we're sending two values, height and width. So we're sending two values. These are the arguments, right? We call them the arguments. This is the function that it's in a separate area, okay? And we have display data. The name matches, so I know that is correct. So what we're going to do is whatever we have in main memory, inside the box height is going to be copied into the H. If I have a 5, then this H is going to have a 5. Whatever I have in weight, I have a 3, is going to be copied into W. So now W is going to have a 3. In the function, when we displayed height, the word height is going to display height equals 5, and then it's going to display width equals what? 3. We call this passing by value. Okay, so this is the name that we use, passing by value. When an argument is passed to a function, a copy of its value is placed in the parameter. The function cannot access the original argument. Remember, we already explained that. The copy always remains intact, so it's just the copy that is going to change. Changes to the parameter in the function do not affect the value of the argument in the calling function, which is just another way of repeating what we have in the second line. Here's another example. We have a variable that is called BAL, and we assign the value of 5. And then we have a call. Even or odd is the name of the function, and we're sending BAL. So this is the argument in the calling. So we're calling it with this line right here, with this one. So we're making a copy, and we have num now, and it's going to be the parameter in the receiving function, which is called even or odd. Even or odd can change the variable num, but it will not affect the variable BAL. Okay, so we have different ways that we can see this, right? We started right here, the call, the arguments. I gave you several examples, so we have all this. Now we're going to see it in a program. Okay, we're going to play computer now with this program. So we start line number 1. It's a comment. We skip it. Line number 2, we have a directive, preprocessor directive. So we're going to bring this library in. It's the IO stream. We call it std. And then on line number 6, we have a prototype. This is a prototype. In this prototype, let me remove this. What information are we saying here with this line? We have a lot of information here. Single line. Explain to me whatever you think it's saying. It has 3. This function has 3 parameters. Okay? And they are going to be integers, right? What else? What else can you tell me about this line? The name of the function is show sum. What else can you tell me about this line? It doesn't return anything. No return. Yes, you see how there's a lot of information being enclosed in this single statement. And we need to understand that we have 3 parameters. The 3 of them are integers, so it's going to receive 3 different values. The name of the function is show sum, and is not going to return, the function will not return anything because it's a void. Okay, so we continue. Remember, we're the computer. So number 8, we have int main. So we start with our program now. Curly brace, curly brace. So anything that is declared right here is going to be in one area of main memory that is reserved only for main. Okay, so we have this line, number 10, int value 1, value 2, value 3. We know that we're going to be creating 3 different variables, right? Let me just get this one out right here. So we have 3 boxes. Let's suppose this area is main, right here on the top. Remember, this is main. And we have 3 boxes. For simplicity, I'm going to use B onlys, okay? But it's value 1, value 2, and value 3. And we're asking, enter 3 integers and I will display their sum. So this is going to be displayed on the screen. And then we have Cin, value 1, value 2, value 3. Let's suppose that the user types 10, 20, and 30. Where will the 10 go? Value 1. So we put the 10 here. Where will the 20 go? Value 2. So we enter the 20 here. Where would the 30 go? Value 3. So we enter the value right here, 30. Next line, 18. Call show sum. Show sum and send a copy of whatever you have in value 1, a copy of whatever you have in value 2, and a copy of whatever you have in value 3. So where do we go now? Line number 27. And what are we going to be doing in this first line? Okay, so now in main memory, in another area that is going to be called show sum, we're going to open 3 variables, right? Num1, num2, and num3. And we're going to make a copy. What value are we going to have in N1? 10. What value are we going to have in N2? 20. What value are we going to have in N3? 30. And we're going to send the message. The sum is num1 plus num2 plus num3. What are we going to display? 60. Line number 30 is the end. Where do we go to? Back to 18. We're done with the whole line, so we go to line number 19 and we end the program. Questions? Okay, what if I do the following? What will be the output of this? Of this program? Why 65? We're adding 5 to the value of num1. So now instead of a 10, we have a 15. Plus num2, which had a 20. Plus num3, which has a 30. So now instead of having the 60, we have the 65. So what will be the value of value 1? We changed num1 to a 15, but what happened to value 1? It's still the same. It's going to keep the number 10. Everybody understands that? We're not going to change that. Okay. What will happen if I have this line right here? Cout the other way around, num1, semicolon. Can that happen? Why not? Num1, was it declared in main? No. Where did we declare num1? In the function. Remember our areas in main memory. Look at what I have here. The top line, the top area, main ends where I have that line, and show sum begins where I have that line. So and num1 exists right here in this area, but not in here. So when I try to display num1, this is going to give me an error. Undefined variable. Because of the scope. Remember, the curly braces, they indicate a block. Not only a block of statements, but also a block in main memory. So it's like, okay, I can create whatever I want here, and I'm going to be using it, but this doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for the other area. Okay, I'm going to change now. I'm going to remove this as well. Can I do that? I change the names from num1 here in this program, in this function, to value 1, value 2, value 3. I'm having the same names as I have in my calling module. Can I do this? They have a value. I'm calling show sum, and I'm sending a copy of whatever I have here, whatever I have here, and whatever I have here. And that value is going to be copied into this, which is a 10, into this, which is a 20, into this, which is a 30. But this is called B1, B2, and B3. They can have the same name because they are in two different areas. Again, my concept on the top of the line, below the line, is like two different continents. So now, if I change here, value 1 plus equals 10. What is going to be the answer here? What am I going to be displaying? 70. Okay, what is the value of value 1? 20. No longer a 10, right? Everybody with me? Now we have a 20. What is the value of value 1 here in main? Is going to be 10. Yes, that's correct. That's the original value. It doesn't change, regardless of the name. Questions? So what do we call in the values that we're passing in the call? What is this name? Arguments. And what is the name of the values that are received in the function? Parameters. Arguments and parameters. Okay, let's continue now with the presentation. The return statement. The return statement is used to end execution of the function. It can be placed anywhere in the function. But whenever you place the return, if you write lines after that, then they are not going to be executed. One application is to prevent any abnormal termination of the program is when we use it. Without the return statement, the function is going to end with the last curly brace. So if we don't have a return, that is fine, but we have to close it with a curly brace. We can use the return statement to send back a value from the function to the module that made the call. Just like there's a link, we always go back to whoever called me. We can also send a value. When we use a value, when we use a return value, then void has to change. And it has to match whatever we're sending back. If I'm sending back a whole number, then I have to use either short, int, or long. If I'm going to be sending back a floating point number, then I have to use my float, my double, or my long double. If I'm going to be sending back one character, then my return data type has to be a char instead of a void. If I'm going to be sending back a true and false, then my data type has to be Boolean instead of void. When we are sending back a return value, we can assign it to a variable. Okay, we can receive it in a variable. We can use it in a cout. We can use it in an arithmetic computation, or we can use it in an if statement or in a switch. So we can use the return value anywhere we need to in my program. It has many applications. The way that we're going to write it is just return and then the expression. The expression can be a variable, the expression can be a constant, which is a literal, or it can be even an expression. I can have like A plus B plus C. I can also send that back. Okay, it should be the same data type as the declare return type. Okay, if instead of void I put an int, but I'm going to be sending a floating point number, then we're going to have problems. If I'm going to be sending a character and I'm going to put an int, then we're going to have problems. So we have to be very careful what we're sending. We're going to see this in a program, how we're going to apply it. Okay, not that one. Okay, here's an example. No, it doesn't return anything, so hopefully the next one. The program uses a function that returns a value. So again, we're going to be playing computer. So we have line number 3, number 2, and number 3. We're bringing a library. Line number 6. Now, what can you tell me about this line? Tell me, talk to me. What is this line telling you? Nothing? It's not speaking to you? What is sum? What is that? Sum is the name of the function. That's why I'm asking you to talk to me, to tell me what information are we receiving in that line? Anything. This is a prototype. It's not the function itself. It's just a prototype. That line is telling us something. That's a lot of information, so tell me anything. The name of the function is? Name of function is what? It's sum. 2 parameters. And they are what? All integers. What else? What is the first thing that you notice about that prototype that is different from the other one that we were working with? It's not void. It has something different, right? It has an int. So what is this telling us, this int? It's going to return an integer. So the result of this function is that it's going to send back an integer. Returns an integer. Somehow, somewhere, it's going to send back an integer. So we start main. Line number 10, we have value 1 with a 20. We have value 2 with a 40. And we have total, a variable, with garbage. So I'm going to create my area in memory. Crooked. This is main. So we are creating how many variables? No. 3. What are the names? Value 1, value 2, and total. Okay, what values are we going to have? 20. We have a 20 here. We have a 40. And what do we have in total? In total we have 60? No. Where did you get the 60 from? No, we have garbage. We don't know what we have. Remember that the computer just follows the programmer's instructions. So the only thing that is going to do, and it's going to take one line at a time. Line number 14, comment, I skip it. 15, comment, I skip it. 16, comment, I skip it. Line number 17, total is assigned the sum, open parenthesis, value 1, comma, value 2, close the parenthesis, semicolon. We're used to having here like a plus, right? We don't have it. When we have an assignment operator, which part of this statement is executed first? The left-hand side or the right-hand side? The right-hand side. So it's like we're going to be drawing a line right here, and we're going to be worrying about this part first. This is a call. So we're calling sum, and we're sending a copy of value 1, which is this, and of value 2, which is this. So we're going to go which line we transfer control to. What line number? 29. I didn't hear you the first time. So we go to line 29. Line 29 is called sum. It's a function. So I create another area in main memory, which is called sum. Different from the area in main, right? And in this line, I have create an int that is going to be called num1. So I create a variable called num1 and create another int which is called num2. Num2. I don't have garbage here. What happens when a call is made and a match is found? What am I going to have in num1? What am I going to have in num2? In num2 I have what? A 40. And in num1? A 20. A copy is made, right? When a match is made with a call, then immediately the arguments, value 1 is an argument, value 2 is an argument, are going to be copied into num1, which is my parameter, and num2, which is my parameter. This is an int, so it's correct because value 1, it's an int. Num2, it's an int, so it's correct because value 2, it's an int. So I get these two values. And then I'm going to have return. What do I return? The addition of num1 plus num2. Num1 plus num2 is what? 60. So this 60 right here is going to go through this pathway that it's an int. It fits, right? This is an int and I'm sending a whole number. So it goes fine. Goes through the int. Okay. And this is the end, line 32. So where do I go back to? Which line number? 17. It comes to 17. Am I done with this line? No, I'm not done. What happens is, this is the part that I already completed. I return back a 60. So now the 60 goes into total. We go to the next line, number 20, and now we have the sum of value 1, which is 20, and value 2, which is 40, is total. What do we have in total? A 60. Questions? Okay, no questions? I'm going to change it. Here we're returning an expression that is a sum, but I can also have here int r is num1 plus num2 semicolon, and then I have r here. Follow the program and tell me what will be the output of the program. I have int r right here. So r is a variable that I'm going to be creating in show sum. And r, I'm creating it, and at the same time I'm going to be putting the result of the addition of sum 1 plus sum 2. So 20 plus 40 is going to be 60. We put it here in r. And then I'm going to be returning r through the pathway, which is an int, so it's correct. The 60 is going to go back. And now, here, I have a 60 that is going to be placed in total, and then the value is going to be displayed right here. So it's going to give me exactly the same result. Questions? Okay, I'm going to change it one more time. Another use of the function. I'm not going to call it here. Okay. Follow the code again and tell me if there's going to be a difference. Okay, let's play computer one more time with this new code. So we start in line number 8 with main. We have value 1, value 2 with a 20 and a 40. Total has garbage. And then we jump all the way to line number 19. See out. The sum of value 1, which is 20, and value 2, which is 40, is, and then we have a call. This is a call. We're calling a function. Sum is the name of the function, and we're sending value 1 and value 2. Value 1 is a 20, value 2 is a 40. So we're sending a copy. Here's sum. Num1 is going to have a copy of that 20. Num2 is going to have a copy of that 40. Line number 30, we add 20 plus 40, and the result is going to be placed in R. So we have a 60. So we return a 60. So when we return a 60, all this is going to change to a 60. So it's like we have the sum of 20 and 40 is 60. We got exactly the same thing, right? It's just another method of coding it. Remember, in the PowerPoint presentation I have, you can use the call when you have a return value and put it in a variable. That was the first thing that we did. Total was receiving the result of that return. You can also use it in a cout. You can also use it in a function and in an if statement. You can also use it in a calculation. I can do the following. Now, I'm going to change this. What are we going to be displaying now? 70. Very good. Everybody agrees with this? Is going to return the value. What value is it going to return? Whatever we have in R, right? Which was a 60. 60 plus 10 is 70. So that's what is going to be displayed. Will this change anything? It's going to be exactly the same thing. Num1, num2 is going to be added. We have the 40 plus the 20, and it's going to return, and the return value is going to be 60 right here, plus the 10, and it's going to be displaying a 70. Questions? No questions? Okay, we can return a Boolean value as well. And the Boolean value is going to be true or false. We declare the return type instead of void, we're going to be putting Boolean, right? The function body must contain a return, and we don't return a variable, we don't return a constant. What we return is the keyword true or the keyword false. Here's an example. This is the prototype. Here instead of void, we have the bool is valid and then the int. Here is the function itself. The function is going to be receiving a value that is going to be sent. So it's going to have here an int, and it's going to check minimum is 0, maximum is 100. Two variables that are declared here. It's going to check if value that was received is greater than or equal to minimum, and value is less than or equal to maximum, so that means it's in the range, it's a valid number. Then it's going to return true. Else it's going to return false. And either the true or the false is going to go through this gateway, and it's going to, this is where the call is made, is going to be returned right here. And this is going to be substituted with true or false when it returns. This is going to be either the value true or the value false. And that's what we need for the if, right? So that it can follow one path. If it's true, it's going to do the true part of the if. If it's false, it's going to do the false part of the if. Let's see. This is 11. Here is a complete program. So we have line number 6. We have Boolean is even, and we're going to be sending an int. So the information that we have here is the name of the function is what? Is even. How many parameters is this function going to receive? One parameter. What type? One int parameter. Is it going to return something? Yes, no? Yes, it has one return. What type? It's going to return a Boolean value. So we have here a lot of information, right? We start in main, and we're going to start by setting up a variable called VAL, and we're going to get the number from the user. Enter an INT, and I will tell you if it's even or odd. Very good. So I can type any number, and it's going to give me if it's even or odd. Okay, so we have a cin, and we type 131. Okay, that is the value that we're going to be typing, 131. And we want to know if it's even or odd. We have on line number 18, if, here is a call, it's even, and we're sending VAL, and VAL has a 132. So it's even, it's a function, so the function should be somewhere here. So we find the function, line number 31. Is even, so that 131 is going to be placed in where? Where is it going to be copied to? 131. Yes, to number. To number. So number is going to have 131. Line number 33. If number is divided, and only give me the module, the modulus, right? That's what the percent symbol means. If the remainder is equal to 0, then we're going to return true. If the remainder is equal to something different than 0, then return false. If I divide 131 by 2, am I going to have a remainder? Yes, and what is that remainder? 1. So the return is going to be false. I'm done. So I return, where do I return to? To line 18. And what am I returning? False. So I have a false here. What happens if it's false? If the condition is false? What part of the if is going to be executed? If the result of the condition is false, what part of the if is going to be executed? The else. So it's going to display cout. 131 is odd. So that's what we're going to get on the screen. 131 is odd. Questions?